Welcome to Go Island. Today we're going to check out well-read kids. It's part of Literacy Central Vancouver Island because this guy, Rick Scott, has a new project. It's called The Great Gazzoon, a tall tale with tunes and turbulence. What is it? Well, it's an audio epic. We're going to find all about it on this edition of Go. Also in the lineup, do you know what your kids are doing online? You should. It's crucial to their safety. We're going to check in with Nancy Wilmot in Port Alberni to find out how gardening can help people with mental health challenges. We're also going to check in with James Green, who is talking about a new program based in Victoria. It spreads throughout the whole island on how to help people kick their addictions. Derek Johnstone checks in with some local television producers, a new series, The Sky's the Limit. But before we get to any of that, there are people dumping their garbage illegally in and around the Nanaimo Regional District. There's a local guy who has dedicated now his own time to finding out who those people are and putting a stop to it. Here's Kelly Robinson. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4, and we are hanging out in the Literacy Nanaimo Children's Bookstore on Commercial Street in downtown Nanaimo. This is Rick Scott, and we're hanging out with him today to find out a little bit more about his most recent project. It's called The Great Gazzoon, a tall tale with tunes and turbulence. It's a very deep project. It's a multifaceted project. It, of course, bases around music and storytelling. To elaborate more, Rick, what is The Great Gazzoon?
I'm so glad you asked. The Great Gazzoon is, well, the Gazzoon is a character. He's the hero of our story. And our story takes place way up on top of a mountain, the largest mountain ever. And it has two peaks at the very top. And on one of the peaks, just hanging onto this cliff, is a little kingdom. The kingdom is called Jabby Crag.
How did you come up with all these names, Gazzoon and Jabby Craig, and all of the sort of made-up language almost that's scattered throughout the story?
I like sound. I like the sound of words, and I like to play with words. And so this is a wonderful project for me because I got to use sound and words in sort of a audio musical novel.
And it's 4 hours of audio.
It's a 3.5-hour story, and then there's a fourth CD that gives you some of the great hits from the musical.
Now the central character is a coming-of-age boy.
Yes.
And he has a challenge in his life. He's at a bit of a crossroads.
He belongs to a family called the House of Wazoo, and the House of Wazoo has one job and one job only, and that is when the king dies. That's a heavy time up there in Jabby Crag. But after the mourning and after all the funerals and all the sadness passes, there's a new king. And when the new king comes along, by tradition, which has been going on for hundreds and hundreds, by tradition, one of the House of Wazoo has to walk on a wire between the two mountain peaks. And that is going to be the job of Gazzoon. He is the next one in line to do this.
Who did these illustrations, by the way?
The illustrations were done by a woman named Linda Sanborn, who lives in Ottawa. She's a professor in Ottawa and at the university. She has been a friend of mine for, forever. For 40 years, she and I have known each other. And right from the get-go, I thought, someday, somehow, she and I are going to work together on a project. And it only took 35 or 40 years, but she did it. And her illustrations are just I love watching people open the package the first time and just, because her illustrations are so striking and so beautiful.
Now, Gazzoon is supposed to be learning how to walk a tightrope, but he doesn't want to do that. He wants to play music all day.
Well, yeah, he's kind of scared of the tightrope, but he discovers this instrument called the schnookmer. And the
another made-up word, right?
Yes. And the schnookmer is an instrument that just calls him out, and he just can't play it enough. And he just, instead of sitting and sitting on the wire, doing somersaults on the wire, running on the wire, learning how to do handstands on the wire, he likes to sit in the practice area and play his schnookmer.
What is this? This is not a schnookmer.
Well, no, this is called a strumstick. This is one of the instruments. We used so many instruments to record this project with. The strumstick is used by a couple of the characters because the characters are all identified by a certain sound. The winds have a certain sound, a certain music. Gazzoon has a certain sound that when he plays his schnookmer. And this one is one of the other ones for the characters. So everybody has their own identification because it's an audio novel.
Rick, we're going to come back. We're going to find out about more of some of the audio characters that you can find in Rick Scott's latest project, The Great Gazzoon. We'll also talk about what personal connection Rick has to walking a tightrope. All that coming up later on this edition of Go. In the meantime, here's Derek Johnstone. The sky's the limit. The Sky's the Limit airs every Monday night at 8:30 on Czech television, and the premiere episode runs this Monday, the 17th of September. Coming up next on Go Island, we're going to head up to Port Alberni. We're in the bookstore at Literacy Nanaimo, the children's bookstore, and some people are coming in the door. Don't let us stop you. Come on in. We never want to stop people or get between people and their books. We're going to head up to Port Alberni next. Nancy Wilmot introduces us to a gardener who is also the past president of the Canadian Mental Health Association. She firmly believes that gardening is a great tool to help people with mental health challenges transform their lives. Here's Nancy Wilmot. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. This is Rick Scott's latest project, The Great Gazzoon. Now, we did talk earlier in the show a little bit about what the story is. There's a little boy named Gazzoon who is supposed to follow in his father's footsteps when he becomes a king and learn how to walk a tightrope. It's a 4-hour audio novel. Rick Scott does 8 of the voices, and it is actually based on a true story in a sense. You actually had to learn how to walk a tightrope at one point in your life?
They say write about what you know. And yes, there was a period in my career where I was offered a job and the only catch was I had to walk a tightrope. And my answer when asked if I would walk a tightrope was, sure. Big mistake, but I did it, I learned, I studied it for over a year. And I did a show that called on me to walk a tightrope every night during the show.
And did you know at the time that that was sort of an idea germinating for what would become?
No. That was just, I was too afraid to think of anything besides walking on that wire every night. Actually, the idea was born there. I just didn't know it. And if you wanted to say, well, what's your book? What is this about? Well, a lot of it is about fear for children and how they deal with that. And I had quite an experience with fear on the tightrope. So.
One of the things you're wanting to do and achieving, I've listened to this with my kids in the car, is opening up the imagination, re-engaging the imagination. This is not a DVD.
No.
It's not a video.
No.
Very purposefully.
No. It's you have to listen and you have to imagine what it looked like, you're getting all the sounds, you're getting all the voices of all the characters. There's 25 actors and musicians involved in this, and sound effects, and so it's up to you to thread it all together and make your own beautiful story from it.
And you've written that story with your partner, Valley Hennell.
Valley Hennell.
She's over there.
Who produced it. She worked with the engineer producing it. She wrote a lot of it. There's one section in here where I had written an episode that went on and on and on, and she cut it down to a beautiful 4-minute poem. So without her, the ship would not sail.
Too many great talents to list them all that have contributed to this project, but a lot of people locally are very familiar with Joelle Rabu. She sings punk.
Oh yeah, Joelle Rabu getting down. She's one of the villains. Well, she plays a villain, and she also plays a very sweet, wonderful mom to one of the heroines.
Thanks for sharing your time with us today,
Well,
Rick.
thanks for having me on.
Looking forward to some launches where you can hear excerpts from The Great Gazzoon, A Tall Tale with Tunes and Turbulence. We'll tell you where you can experience that live in the Central Vancouver Island region later on this edition of Go. In the meantime, the kids are back in school. Were personal devices a part of their school supplies? Can they get online with them? Do you know where they're going and what they're doing with who when they are online? It's something that as a parent you need to know. A very powerful story. Pay attention to what your kids are doing online. That brings us to the end of this edition of Go. We're running out of time. You can catch Rick Scott and The Great Gazzoon at the Harbourfront Library here in Nanaimo, September 22nd at 2 p.m. He's in Duncan on the 23rd and other spots throughout Vancouver Island in the coming weeks. You can visit rickscott.ca for full details. That's it. I'm out of time. Thanks for watching Go. We'll see you next time.